Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Now, Turkey has been at the center of this year's NATO summit as the host, using the gathering to underline both its military importance and its growing diplomatic ambitions. Now, alongside decisions on defense spending, Ukraine and Europe's security, the meetings has also drawn renewed attention to Turkey's domestic politics and its relationship with Western allies. As the summit concludes on Wednesday, what does it tell us about Turkey's place inside NATO and the wider international world? And joining us now to answer that is Karol Wasilewski, analyst at the Center for Eastern Studies. Good to have you back with us. Welcome.
Thank you very much for your invitation. Thanks for having me. Welcome.
Welcome back. So looking at the host nation, just right off the bat, I mean, we've already seen how President Trump has engaged with Erdoğan when he arrived yesterday. What do you think Turkey's main objective out of the summit is? Where are we now with day 2 of everything there in Ankara?
Okay, so let's stick with Trump first. So when it comes to Trump, Turkey's first objective is to make Trump happy. And basically speaking, this is objective that all European allies keep their fingers crossed. There are numerous other objectives of Turkey out of the summit. When it comes to a relationship with the United States, this gesture that Tayyip Erdoğan made right after a speech of Donald Trump when he mentioned that sanctions will be lifted, that maybe Turkey will be back to the F-35 program. This is of extreme importance to Turkey when it comes to relations vis-à-vis United States, but also Israel, to somehow diminish the technological advantage that Israel has in the region. There are also some objectives tied to Turkish, of course, defense sector. Namely speaking, Turkish defense sector has one huge bottleneck, which is newest technologies. And thanks to yesterday's defense forum, I believe that it is much closer to overcoming these bottlenecks because some of Turkish companies like Aselsan have entered industrial partnership with European partners. And there are, of course, goals tied to Turkey's image inside NATO. Turkey has repeatedly argued that it has to be considered a central, not peripheral, nation inside NATO, a country that is bridging United States and Europe, a country that has a say in European defense, and lastly, these goals tied to European Union or European security architecture, as the Turks like to say. Turks do not want to stay alone. They know that there will be some kind of extreme whole makeover in European Union security architecture, and they want to have a say. This is why they have been, since 2025, underlined that, look guys, if you want to remake European security, you can't limit yourself to the security of European Union. Security of Europe is much broader. It has to include your allies that are not part of European Union, but are really important, I would say vital, for defense of the southern flank. And this is Turkey's goal when it comes to Europe.
So when you say they want to have a say, let's translate that. They probably would like also access to a lot of that cash right now and a lot of the investment that Europe, especially the European Union, is taking in terms of defense. I'm thinking of those safe loans, for instance, other types of rearmament programs. Is this what the goal is here when they want to be involved in your sense?
Absolutely. You know, everybody loves cash. But setting jokes aside, you know, meeting the Turks, analysts, also people from defense sector for the last year, safe was their motto. Yeah, as you mentioned, access to cash is one of the most important things because it's basically business, yeah? But there is another angle through which we can look at that, because access to cash is and money inflow to Turkish defense sector is one thing. The other thing is a thing more structural. Turkey wants to be a part of, again, European changing security architecture and industrial partnerships, both because it will, once again, allow more money flows to Turkey. Secondly, because Turkey will gain expertise. Turkish defense sector will gain further knowledge, will be able to overcome this very important bottleneck. Yeah, the access to newest technologies. So I wouldn't, when mentioning these Turkey's goals vis-à-vis Europe, I wouldn't focus just on money. I would underline that their maximum goal is to be a part of something broader that will come out of this, sorry again for using this phrase, extreme makeover of European security.
But at the same time, I mean, that's might hit a certain hitch if we look also. It's not just about money. You could draw in values there. And I think at the same time happening with this summit right now in Ankara, we also have the name of Mr. Imamoglu, the former mayor of Izmir, who is still being held by Turkish authorities. There are actually certain hearings at the same time as the summit. So we have something like that in the background. Does that have any bearing on how Europeans deal with Turkey?
So I'll answer with question, do we really have that in the background? Because yeah, it's happening in the background indeed, but do we pay attention anymore? And I don't think so. I mean that Turkey has been getting some strong signals from European Union since, basically speaking, Imamoglu was arrested, that this is something that won't have a say, or won't have, I should say, general say on Turkey-EU relationship. And Tayyip Erdoğan is basically trying to capitalize on that. You know, he pushes the opposition even further. Just to mention the decision of the court to re-establish former leadership of CHP with Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, and to basically sack Özgür Özel. At the same time, it is a problem because we are speaking about some kind of structural cooperation or future structural cooperation between Turkey and the European Union. So nowadays, this cooperation is, I would say, managed pragmatically, based on some kind of deals between Turkey and some European countries, Spain, Poland, Baltic states, in something that we could call co-creation islands. Basically speaking, there are some countries that Turkey cooperates closer with the hope that these countries will, first of all, facilitate industrial cooperation. Secondly, will allow them to somehow access the funds of the European Union. But as I said before, Turkey's goal is to build a structural cooperation with the European Union. And, you know, if you want to build a structural cooperation, you basically need trust. And this is a very strange currency, I mean, the trust. It is something that is not tangible, it is not visible at a first glance, but then you have discussions. Should we cooperate with Turkey in a more structural way? Can we depend on Turkey? And some people may answer, we can't, because this is, basically speaking, authoritarian country.
But on that trust currency, I just want to ask really briefly, are there some countries in the European Union that have, let's say, closer affinity to that trust between Turkey and this other country? Can you name any of them?
I mean, there are countries that consider Turkey to be a reliable partner, and they are saying that security is that important that we need to build this structural relationship. And I would say that looking at the statements coming from these countries, this is Spain, this is of course Italy, this is probably also Poland, these are Baltic states. I just have to add one thing. The opposition itself is not helping European decision maker to understand what's happening with them, because some of communications that is coming from the opposition, well, it basically gives fuel to these arguments that we shouldn't look at Turkey's internal politics, because domestic politics, because if you have opposition leaders saying that defense is much more important than domestic politics, well, what can you do as a European decision maker? You basically pay attention to these words.
Also, in terms of, you mentioned defense, I mean, this is also something very, very fresh as we're talking about it. This is an issue which, for sure, the Americans are very much on their own with the Israelis. This is Iran. Now, last night there were new strikes, renewed strikes, over 80 of them by the United States. There's actually just now a reporter, just I think within the last sort of hour or so, they were talking to President Trump, asking him if this is now the end of this memorandum of understanding, the ceasefire. And I'm just quoting here what President Trump has said. It's a very interesting question to me. I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. Went on to also call them, it's a waste of time. They're a cancer. They're sick people. We have to cut it out. So when we hear language like that, you have to look at it very carefully. But at the same time, you know, Erdoğan is not a fan of these strikes. Many of these NATO allies are not. So how do you interpret this now? Is this the end of the ceasefire? What's next? How do we deal with this?
First of all, it's Trump being Trump. This is how Donald Trump usually negotiates. So I think it is very in sync with his personality. Secondly, since the beginning of this ceasefire, we have known that this is something that is very, very difficult to manage, that both sides seem interested in general peace, but then both sides are ready for escalation. And we also knew that there is this one actor, Israel, that really doesn't like the peace or the idea, the general idea of peace. So I don't think it is surprising at all. Secondly, I would say that it's good that missile defense is, relocated or has been relocated around Ankara. But setting jokes aside, this is a Trump's negotiation tactic. Will it lead to results that Trump expects? I doubt it, because Iran has already shown its resilience. It's shown that it's ready to give back. So, yeah, probably another round of confrontation, maybe in front of us. Mm-hmm. During the NATO summit, however, and probably during this day, the very day we are speaking at, we will see or hear some declarations from the allies how to support a ceasefire with Iran. So this is a dynamic that may influence Trump's thinking during this day. And, it wouldn't be the first time that Donald Trump changes, his opinion like this.
But it's a NATO summit, and also we heard words also from the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte saying that the Americans are absolutely right in doing what they did. So does that change the dynamics of all this? Will all the leaders of NATO?
I wouldn't say it changes dynamic, because the European leaders have already recognized that they need to contribute something to Trump's, let's call it, Iran endeavor. So it will be another factor that will most probably strengthen European leaders' opinion that they need to give something to Donald Trump vis-a-vis Iran.
All right, so another factor. Karol Wasilewski will be watching it closely. Thanks so much for all your insights. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.